I also really like Legend of Zelda,
Hmm.
like those games too.
Are you a fan of Breath of the Wild?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I'm playing through that right now. Kind of like as a side project type thing. Like that's kind of the first Let's Plays that I'm really doing is Breath of the Wild because I didn't like the game the first time I played it. And it's been interesting to kind of visit it, 3 years later and kind of see some new things with it and, trying to give it a second chance. But
How far are you?
so I mean, I'm 4 or 5 hours into my second playthrough.
Oh, okay.
So I've left the Great Plateau. I already went to go talk to Impa. I'm like basically going back and forth with that guy about the ancient technology and stuff, and like just kind of getting my feet wet. That game's got a long introduction. I've
Yeah.
recorded 7 Let's Plays at this point, all anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes each, and I'm like, I feel like they've just added so much artificial time into this game to where just little things that I'm noticing. I am enjoying it more than the first time I played it, but little things that I'm noticing, it's like, okay, if you're gonna put a fast travel mechanic in, why do you limit it to just the towers? I don't understand that. Like if you're gonna put a fast travel mechanic in, I should be able to travel right to the town, right? I mean, this is 2017 at this point. I should be able to just drop right in there if the mechanics there. So it's like, so you're telling me I have to take an extra 5-6 minutes to get to this other place that's right. I don't know. It's like it just kind of small things are starting to add up, and it's kind of reminding me of why I didn't like the game in the first place because it feels anti-intuitive in a lot of ways.
Oh.
But I'm enjoying it. The pluses are far outweighing the negatives for me, in a lot of ways right now with the second playthrough. So, to
That
answer your
made me
question, go ahead.
that made me think of like something I've been thinking about lately in games like that. So we know Zelda is like it's a newer game. Um, and you compare it to the old games, and there's a lot of benefit, a lot of new ideas that have been done with games, such as fast traveling.
Mm-hmm.
So, with games going forward, like, should those things be included where it's like, it lets you do something that they never really thought of in the past? But, or should, do they like take it away to benefit the game and the story? Like, where's the balance, you know?
Yeah, totally. And I agree with what you're saying. I think about a game like Red Dead, right, where I never fast traveled because I genuinely enjoyed being in that world. Death Stranding, absolutely not. Never fast traveled. I just genuinely enjoyed the vibe and the aesthetic of the world. And I understand that's what Breath of the Wild was trying to do. And really they were kind of the first one to do it in this next, wave of games that have come out the past, towards the end, the last quarter of this generation, I guess, last 2 or 3 years. And like for me, just in a lot of ways, Zelda just misses the mark because yeah, it's one thing to put the fast travel in and make you explore and like make you kind of venture out and make it kind of harder to find things to do a little bit. But there is a balance because yes, this is a war-torn world where Calamity Ganon has like stripped everything, so it would make sense why it is so empty. That doesn't make it fun. Like that doesn't make it always fun. You know what I mean? Like I understand putting yourself in Link's position and like trying to help this thing, but me as a player who's expecting a Zelda-esque experience, I think that was one of the biggest things for me is there's not even really any music in the game. So I mean, one of the two of the biggest
Yeah.
things I look forward to are characters and music in Zelda games. And it's pretty lackluster in those two huge, like definitive Zelda areas, right? That being said, I don't know. To me, it kind of feels like whenever Assassin's Creed moved forward, but they didn't make Assassin's Creed. They made like a different game and then slapped Assassin's Creed on it. Like it kind of feels like that in a lot of ways with this Breath of the Wild game, which is fine. I'm enjoying it. I just have to remind myself like this is new. This isn't really Zelda, like it is Zelda, but it's not, I just
It needs some like super giant music.
yeah, it needs something, to do
It
it needs
does. It
something
does.
to go
Yeah.
back to form, and I'm hoping the sequel gives us more of that. So
It does feel a bit empty and quiet at times.
yeah, I mean, sorry, I gotta switch my camera out really quick or switch my battery out. Yeah, I mean, it just in a lot of ways, I'm like having just a really, really good time. You know what I mean? But in a lot of ways, I'm missing the things. Okay, I guess this is the best way to put it. In a lot of ways, like I'm having a great time, but in a lot of other ways, I'm missing the simplistic, like kind of baseline, bare bones things that made the game, the Zelda games great in the beginning, and it feels like in a lot of ways those core things are missing. So
Yeah, I think, it is a transitional game too. They're switching up the way it's being made and now trying to do more open world.
yeah.
So hopefully the second time around, maybe they'll kind of iron out some of those details and make it a bit better.
Yeah, and I mean, just little things like, and I swear, ladies and gentlemen, the listeners, if you're wondering when we're going to get to the root of the discussion, we will get there at some point. Um, the biggest thing I feel like the game is lacking is not only are all the enemies repetitive, right, but they're spread far and few and far between. It feels like there just isn't a lot of variety in enemies and enemy types, and it doesn't really feel like each area I go to is different, which is it's a negative for me. Each area should have its own kind of biome and feel and like its own specific enemies to that area. Whereas, when you go to the rock, the desert area, you go to the whatever area, it's just it's a Lizalfo or it's a Choo Choo or it's a whatever, and it's the same enemy type, but just reskinned, with different abilities, different elemental abilities. And I get why they want to keep it simple because they have like the blood moon effect and stuff like that. And there is a challenge to the game. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, in Halo, we have been killing the same enemies for like the past 25 years at this point, or 20 years, and no one's ever complained really because it's fun. The game kind of wears off its charm a little bit for me, like with the enemies and stuff like that. So I don't know. I hope they innovate it, and I hope they add, like, I there's nothing that bothers me more whenever I go to a town and I see like a board, you know what I mean? Like where there should be side quests I can pick up, but there isn't. Like you put the board there in the town, but you didn't put anything in there. Like there's one thing to read. So yeah, I mean, I hope they innovate. I hope they take the criticisms and don't be Nintendo about it and like actually give people more of what they want. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I mean, it felt like they were trying to do Skyrim, but Zelda, and
yeah,
they just missed the main points of an RPG, which is, building your character, having
choice.
various,
yeah,
having various enemies, a lot of that. So
yep, and good characters. Like people talk about Skyrim all the time. It's like, oh, this combat's janky. It's like, yeah, but the motivations behind what you're doing and why you're doing said things have always made sense, and that's why you do it. Like, so there's that though. But there's your little mini, teaser for what you can expect in my Breath of the Wild Let's Plays. So, and it all came from Cammy. We wouldn't even have this discussion had it not been for Cammy. So Cammy, welcome to the show. Whatever possessed you to check out the podcast or the YouTube channel today, I just want to say thank you so much for doing so. If this is your first time here, I would appreciate it, if you would consider subscribing. As you can tell, it's not just me here anymore. I mean, I do stuff by myself, but the podcast is going to reside here from now on, in video form. So if you want to see more content, if you want to be notified, every time we post something, whether it be a clip, a podcast, a review, an interview, whatever it may be, if it's gaming stuff, make sure you click that bell and hit the subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Thanks for sticking around, and thank you for preparing yourselves for a plethora of hot takes and potentially unpopular opinions. I'm Gabriel Fast. I will always be the wannabe critic.